A proposed piece of legislation is stirring up concern about privacy, with some people saying the powers it would grant to police go too far. An ad campaign has been launched against it. Let's take a listen, take a look.
Hello? Oh, hey. Hey, how's it going? Oh, yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, how are you?
Okay, so a pretty powerful ad, arguably. Many would say that. In Vancouver, joining us to discuss this is Steve Anderson, Executive Director of OpenMedia.ca, as well as Tom Stamatakis, President of the Canadian Police Association. Welcome, and thank you both for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Morning.
Steve, maybe I'll talk to you. Talk to us about this lawful access. What is it? And, what are the concerns?
Sure, it's a set of bills, and the concern is that they would provide access to the private information of any Canadian at any time without a warrant. And so we're talking about warrantless surveillance that is invasive, costly, and poorly thought out. And Canadians across the country have concerns. In fact, the government's own privacy commissioner ran a survey that found that 8 out of 10 Canadians, over 8 out of 10 Canadians, in fact, are against providing this kind of data to police and other security officials. So clearly Canadians are upset, and in fact the videos that you just showed were actually produced by a Canadian for free, sent to us at OpenMedia.ca, and I encourage Canadians, if they aren't aware of this issue, to go to OpenMedia.ca and to find out more for themselves.
Tom Stamatakis, what do you make of that, sir?
Well, that's not what the police community is looking for. We have provisions in the criminal code and other statutes in this country that allow for lawful access. It does require judicial authorization for any police or law enforcement agency to access anyone's communication, and what we're looking for is the ability
So excuse me just a moment, sir. That would make it the same as a warrant then, would it?
Yes, that's right. We would have to obtain some kind of authority in order to monitor anyone's communication, and what we're looking for is to modernize existing provisions in the criminal code so that they keep pace with the changing technology that we're dealing with today. And frankly, the ad that I just saw really is misleading to Canadians in terms of what the police community is looking for.
Okay, so Mr. Stamatakis, just clarify, how often would this be used? In what circumstance?
Well, we would be using these kinds of provisions, from my perspective as a law enforcement officer, rarely. You're talking about the most serious of situations, murder investigations, distribution of child pornography, large drug trafficking files, and the biggest piece of change that we're looking for is to require service providers to create an infrastructure that would allow, on judicial authorization, access to the kind of information that we would need in order to successfully prosecute people who are engaged in very serious criminal activity in this country.
Now, Mr. Anderson, that sounds pretty reasonable, I think, to a lot of Canadians. They think, wow, we got to give our cops all the tools they need to handle child pornography and to go after murderers, and they need some kind of a judicial review to get this special permission. What's wrong with this?
Sure. Well, I think it would be great if that's what, in fact, the legislation suggested. If it was narrowly tailored or targeted, which is what we're asking for, that would be perfect. If there was special situations where they needed to, in circumstances where there was an immediate need to move quickly, that would be great. But as I said, this legislation provides law authorities with access to private information of any Canadian at any time without a warrant. And if you listen closely to what Tom's saying, he's sort of avoiding that issue. And I have Clause 16 right here in front of me, and it says very clearly, every telecommunications service provider must provide law enforcement officials with name, address, telephone number, electronic mail address, internet protocol address, mobile identification number, and it goes on
Right.
from there. And this is all without a warrant. And there's no special targeted approach. There's no special circumstances. This is at any time of any Canadian, and it's warrantless.
Mr. Anderson, we certainly don't want to prevent police in this country from not having the tools that they are saying they need, but at the same time we want to protect our privacy as much as possible. Is there a compromise? Is there a middle ground? In other words, what if this process went ahead, and then who would be monitoring it to ensure that there is no abuse here taking place? And would you agree to something like that, Mr. Anderson?
Sure. Well, I think that if we had a balanced, reasonable approach, I think that we definitely support that. And by balanced, I mean have specific circumstances laid out, like the ones that Tom suggested, where you could bypass the need for a warrant, and then also have audits after the fact and make sure that those audits and that oversight covers all of the authorities that are covered underneath the legislation. So that's a reasonable approach, and I would hope that, understanding that over 70,000 Canadians have signed a petition against this, that 8 in 10 are against this legislation, I would hope that Tom and the police lobby in general would come on side, and I'm hopeful that the government too will take a more reasonable and more balanced approach.